morning. Here we are again. Ready to put another day in the books. Or the book. Oh, quiet. I like it. So I've probably been up since about 1:30. Couldn't get back to sleep. That's always a little annoying. But I woke up with a conversation me and my buddy Mark had. Or, it's half a conversation. He kind of started it. He was asking me kind of out of nowhere. He made a comment about Jesus Christ, the Christian Messiah. So I kind of gave him my thoughts on that. But then that idea kind of bled into other thought experiments, so to speak. So what came to mind was the idea of the one, right? Like the Matrix, the one. Because that's what people called Jesus, right? The one and only Son of God. So my mind started to experiment with what that might mean. Because I know how people took it and how people tend to take it. But let's put that off to the side for now. Let's ignore all the other ideas of what people might think the one and only Son of God might be. Because then I started thinking of the Matrix, right? Neo, he was the one, right? The chosen one. The one that awoke to what the Matrix was. And was able to do and be things inside the Matrix that the other people couldn't be or think or embody. Right? And then I took that line of thinking a little further. Right, let's go back to Jesus' time. From his perspective, I started to think about his life, right? Okay, so there's if you read the Bible, there's a gap of time that's unaccounted for in Jesus' life. He goes from being a very young, I think a child, maybe I don't even know if it goes up to his teenage years, but there's a gap of time that's unaccounted for. And by the time the Bible starts to bring him up again, he's already an adult. So there's a lot of speculation as to what might have happened during that time in Jesus' life. And one of the speculations is that he may have come across some very esoteric knowledge about the nature of the experience he was having. It's all guesswork, all speculation. I can't say it's true. I can't say it's not. But taking that in mind, it led him to start leading the life that he lived and teaching the things that he did. And I don't remember exactly because it's been so long since I've read the Bible. You know, like I did when I was in school, because I read the whole Bible in school. We did Bible study. It was part of my schooling. I went to Christian schools. But I don't remember exactly if Jesus actually made that claim for himself, that he's the one and only Son of God. I know that other people made that claim. And I know that he asked other people, you know, who do you say? How did he word it? Who do you say I am? Or what do people say I am? And there was a bunch of different, I think, answers to that. One of them being the Son of God, the Son of God. And then I started thinking about that. Well, the symbology of the Matrix, Neo being the one, and then, for whatever reason, the icon or the symbol of the Eye of Providence popped into my head. This is me at 1:30 in the morning, laying wide awake in bed. About to hit the road. Alright. So the Eye of Providence, it's on our $1 bill. And I know there's a saying, I think it's Novus Seclorum Ordo or something like that, which I think is Latin for New World Order, roughly. But let's put that to the side too. Let's forget about the whole Illuminati aspect of what that symbol might mean. Because the Eye of Providence, what it is, on the back of the $1 bill is a picture of a pyramid, right? And the foundation of the pyramid, right, is basically a four-sided triangle. ascending up to a point at the top. And on that $1 bill, there's a separation, right? As the pyramid goes up, it stops at a certain point. And then there's a gap of space. And then it continues on towards the top of that pyramid with the Eye of Providence in the middle of that tiny little pyramid on top. So I started thinking of the symbology of that symbol. Now people like to associate that with the Illuminati, right? You can take it all kinds of different ways, but the eye is the all-knowing eye, right? Or people could take it as the eye, the mind, this all-seeing mind of God that is separated from the limited perception of man, which is the base of that pyramid, the rest of that pyramid from the point going down. So that's what people say it could mean. There's all kinds of esoteric meaning behind it. But then I thought, okay, that way of looking at it, like maybe that Eye of Providence is like the Illuminati. It's like this far off group of people who know and have an understanding that is far beyond that of the ordinary human. That puts that idea far off in the distance and gives it to like a secretive group. And I started thinking, all right, well, let's personalize this. How do we personalize this in a way that makes sense? So then I thought, all right, let's invert that symbol. Let's put the Eye of Providence on the bottom, right? Like an upside down pyramid. The eye is at the bottom. Then there's a gap of space that's not connecting that lower eye to the rest of the pyramid as it goes up. What could that mean? Then I thought to myself, okay, well, then that would mean that eye at the bottom is us, right? The average human, our level of perception. So what does the rest of that pyramid going up, what could that represent? And if you look at that pyramid, it's layers upon layers of bricks, one on top of another. So then I instantly thought, well, then that would have to symbolize all the layers of perception that we have in terms of who we are, why we're here, like all these things that we're buried under, starting with your name, right? When you're born, you don't have a name. You're not even a name. That's just the sound you respond to. And it distinguishes you from all the other humans in the world, right? You're this name as opposed to that person with that name. So if I call your name, all right, now you know who I'm talking about. But that word, that one utterance, that sound that you respond to, your name, it's like a little prison that you're in. If I say your name is John, does that tell me who John is? No. It's such a limited way. Then I started thinking about all the different things that we've given names to that just really minimize the fullness of what that thing is. Like a dog. The word dog. Right? That just, right away, you have a picture of an animal in your mind when I say dog. But does that really give you a full picture, the fullness of that creature? No. It's just an easy way, like a Cliff Notes way to understand the world. And we do it through words because it makes things easier. But what that inadvertently does is minimize the majesty of this experience you're having. Like, oh, this is just life. What is this experience you're having? You ask people that, it's life. What? You just minimized this whole magical thing you wake up to every day down to a 4-letter word and you cast it aside like, it's nothing. What are you talking about? This is crazy. You can't do that. It's like, oh, that's just John. Yeah, but John's, right? He's so many other different things than just a name, right? He could be a father. He's a son, right? He could be a carpenter. He could be an engineer. He could be a mystic, right? He could be a sage, a priest. He could be all these different things. But someone that doesn't really know, oh, that's just John. And I think that's such an unhealthy way to go through life, because then you're missing the richness and fullness of everything that you encounter in life. All the people, all the experiences. I don't like the idea of living like that. Right? That's why if you read the Bible, the only definition that God gives of himself in terms of a name is a phrase. I am. Right? I am. That's a statement of existence. Right? You are affirming your existence. I am. Doesn't matter what you call me. I am. And I think if we look at ourselves from that perspective, it kind of empowers you again to the majesty of what you are. You're this walking, thinking, living being, capable of even turning over thoughts like this in your head, right? This is all a thought experiment for me. I have fun thinking about stuff like this. I don't necessarily believe all of it, but it's fun thinking about the possibility of, man, that could be true. Right? So back to the pyramid with the eye on the bottom. That's you, buried under all the things that you think you are. And as you get closer to the end of this ride called life, you know, when your body's broken down and you're all worn out, your mind's barely hanging in there, and you can't even take care of yourself anymore, right? You have to have people help you walk, right? You can barely do this anymore. You're going to start thinking about what all this was. I would assume others would too. Maybe some won't, right? They're so oblivious to what just happened, just not thinking about it. I do. So that's why I think it's important to start thinking about it now. Because if you start thinking about it now, it might change the way you behave, right? You change your thoughts, your behaviors change. Your behaviors change, your actions change, and all of a sudden you're a completely changed person. I think that's a good thing. I don't think anybody should be in the mindset of I am so fully formed and perfected, there's nowhere to go. I don't like that thought for myself. If you think that for you, that's cool. That's cool. But for me, I don't like that. Right? I am a work in progress at all times. So that's why I think it's important to start stripping back the layers that you're buried under, right? That upside down pyramid with the eye on the bottom. That's you. You are the eye from which all things are seen in your world. That's what I was talking about with my buddy also. It also kind of coincides with the whole idea of like simulation theory, right? It's like the Truman Show and the Matrix put together, right? This world was put together from my perspective, because I can't step outside of myself to see that there is an objective world other than the one that I'm experiencing. For all I know, this is my world. And you guys are just in it. But for anybody listening to this, it's the other way around. This is your world. This was put here for you. This is the gift that the Creator has given for you to experience. And any and everything is possible in this experience. It just depends on where you're putting your attention. Right? What are you giving your energy to? What are you freely using up your consciousness on? And I think the first thing for me in my world, the most important thing to do is start breaking down who you think you are, first of all. Right? And if you can come to the realization that you're one aspect of experience emanating from the Creator that is experiencing all. Right? I like to think of this as God. I've visualized this. Try this thought experiment. The idea of the Big Bang. Right? Let's just put it on atheists. For those who don't want to believe that a God created this, and this all just came from an explosion, right? The Big Bang, something smaller than the head of a pin. All of consciousness and matter was compressed down into something the size of something so minute, smaller than a molecule, but something smaller than an atom. and just exploding out in every infinite direction all at once. My mind started to visualize that as, okay, let's take that thought. If it's exploding out, right? If there's an expansion, there has to be a retraction at some point. At some point, that expansion will reach its limit. If you've ever seen an explosion underwater, this is a good visual. If you ever seen like a piece of something detonate underwater, I don't even know where I saw this for the first time, but it creates this perfect bubble of air underwater instantly, because that explosion is pushing all that water out. From the point of the explosion, it's pushing all that water out in a perfect circle, expanding out. Because of it can only expand so far depending on the depth of the explosion. That expansion has to come back in. And that's how I see what the Big Bang might be. And that Big Bang might be an explosion of conscious thought, like God concentrating, right? And then he pushes out every possible experience into the world. That's the explosion moving out, the expansion of consciousness, right? That accounts for all of human development. That accounts for the origin of what atheists like to say that all this comes from, right? Man came from monkeys, and through development over time, we've developed into this thing that we are today, and we're capable of doing these things that we do today. Okay, let's go with that. But at a certain point, that level of development will cease, and we will start to devolve. Instead of evolving, we will start to devolve. And I think we might have already reached that point, right? Like Idiocracy. Anybody who's seen that movie? That advanced society that he woke up in had devolved into complete idiocracy, right? I think we might be on that downward de-evolution. But even so, even if it's just a happening without any kind of creative ignition, it still doesn't make any sense to me. That's why as soon as I said that, something still can't come from nothing. And what is that? If it has to come from something, what is that something? That would be what all the clumsy religions term God. So this goes back to what I was telling my buddy Mark, because out of nowhere he asked me about Jesus and what I thought about Jesus, you know, who he was. And I told him he was an archetype. He had reached a level of what people term today as Christ consciousness. I think before Christ, the archetype was Mithra. I think there have been many Christs, many comings of God in bodily form. But what I really think that means is that they've reached a mental attainment that far transcends what the average human is capable of. That's that gap of space in that pyramid before you reach the eye of providence. That's that mystery, that unknown mystery that can't be accounted for. So I think we're all on that road of mental development. We're all at a different pace, and we are all further down or just barely starting out on that road of development. Right? Maybe this is where reincarnation comes into play. Maybe I've done this before. Right? Maybe in my past incarnation I didn't get to this level of conscious thoughtfulness. Maybe now that I'm here, whatever I learned before, maybe a little bit of it came with me. Who knows? This is all thought experiments. Can't say any of this is true. Can't say any of it's not. So again, 1:30 in the morning, that's what I wake up thinking about. Can't remember any dreams. I know I had some, but they were all muddled. By the time I woke up, it was all just a mishmash of who knows what. But I know I had some dreams. I've been writing them down. I went back recently to read some of them. Pretty wild. Especially I've had a couple lucid dreams. Those were a trip. Then I had a dream. It wasn't a lucid dream, but it was. I woke up with this dream so crystal clear in my mind. It was interesting because it kind of felt like it wasn't a dream. So I don't know what was happening in this dream, but there was like somebody was telling me something or trying to explain something to me, or I don't know if it was like they were trying to lecture me, or I don't know what it was. But I remember in the dream in my mind vehemently disagreeing. Like, no, that's not right. What you're saying is not right. But I don't remember what I said back. And I remember like not so much arguing, but like expressing like, no, what you're saying is so inaccurate. You are so off base. You are not right with what you're saying. And after, I don't remember what I said, but after I was done saying it, I remember whoever the person was, I remember them like, they got this look on their face. And they like looked at me real serious. And I remember them saying, how are you doing this? And then their eyes turned like into slits, like a serpent. Like slits in their eyes, and then I woke up. Their face even kind of changed. And then I woke up. I was like, oh shit, that was crazy. Sorry, didn't mean to cuss. I remember thinking that was crazy, so I wrote it down right away, so I could remember it. That felt real. And the look on his face, like, and what he said, how are you doing this? It was wild. Then the other dream that really tripped me out too was one of my lucid dreams. I don't remember what the initial dream was. It was like a dream. It wasn't a lucid dream. I write these dreams down and I categorize them. This one I called the Inception dream. If you've seen that movie Inception. So I was having a dream, and this is one of the kind of dream, like I said before, I don't really remember, but I do remember having a dream, but I don't remember what the dream was about. By the time I woke up, it's all kind of fuzzy and so faded, there's no coherence to it. So I wake up and I'm in bed next to my girlfriend, and I'm fully dressed with my backpack on, like I'm ready to go to work. And I wake up and I notice I'm like fully dressed and I have my backpack on. I'm like, why do I have my stuff on? I asked my girlfriend and she woke up. She's like, yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I wasn't sure. So I start taking my backpack off and I start getting undressed. And then I woke up. I woke up in real life. I was like, oh crap, that was crazy. I thought I was awake. I thought I had just woken up from a dream with all my stuff on. I knew it didn't make sense. I was like, why do I have my clothes on in bed? This is weird. It's almost like I got up to go to work and just laid back down and fell asleep. And then I woke up with all my stuff on. My girlfriend's like, yeah, I thought that was weird. I don't know why you did that. Took all my stuff off. Woke up again in the middle of taking all my stuff off. In bed. With nothing on. Just my pajamas, my shorts, and my shirt at night. That was wild. So those are the two dreams I remember the most. Oh, third dream I remember the most. This one was a trip too. So I remember in the dream, and I remember I woke up with this one etched in my mind. I could not forget it, because what happened when I woke up is what really tripped me out. Might have talked about this in another video, but I'll say it again. I was at a gravesite, and I was looking at a headstone. And clear as day, I could see the name on the headstone that said Bill Ayers. First name Bill, B-I-L-L. Last name Ayers, A-Y-E-R-S. And I remember thinking in the dream, why don't people know about him? People should know about him. How is it that nobody knows about this guy? Then I woke up. I was like, whoa, that was crazy. Then I looked up the name because I remembered the name. Bill Ayers is a real guy. He's alive today. Bill Ayers is connected to a group called the Weathermen. And I think if you delve deep enough into Bill Ayers, I think Bill Ayers is connected to Barack Obama. I'm gonna have to look that up. But there's a connection there. Something about Bill Ayers and Barack Obama. There's a connection. And that tripped me out. I was like, holy crap. Because I had never heard the name Bill Ayers ever in my life. And the Weathermen, that group, was responsible for a bunch of terrorists. Not a bunch, but some terrorist activity back in the day. And he was the head of it. I thought that was wild. I don't know why or how some of these things come to me. This is what's going on in my world that you are just a part of. So going back to that pyramid, right? I'm the eye from my seat as I drive in my car. I'm the eye that is perceiving this whole world. But in back of me, there's an energy that created me. So to some degree, it's God seeing the world through my eyes, interacting with the world through my being, through the development of me. This is an experience God is having. And from your perspective, God is seeing through you into the world. Why, people might ask. Why would God do this? Maybe he's gathering information, right? Maybe from that explosion of consciousness and that expansion out, maybe as that expansion comes back in, he's gathering all the information that's coming back with it, right? As I grow, as I peak in my growth, as I start to decline and move towards closer to death, and finally my ultimate right, the ultimate finish line, after I pass that and move on, I take all this information that I've gathered through my experience, God has gathered for himself through me, all of it. And then people will ask, well, what about bad people, right? What about the Charles Mansons of the world or the Jeffrey Dahmers? Well, then that's when I say, well, God, if God is an infinite, if the idea of God, which I believe is infinite, then every experience that God has created for him to experience has to be infinite. There cannot be any limitation. So that has to include the bad. The worst bad you could think of. If it includes the best good, then its equal opposite has to exist. The worst bad. Like that movie, that's the basis of that movie. What is it? Invincible? I think it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie. I don't remember if it's Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson, right? That movie is a play on the duality of nature, right? Where one thing exists, its equal opposite is. So I think the basis of that movie was that there was this one guy who was invincible, right? Indestructible. His equal opposite has to exist, right? That's where I think the character's name was Mr. Glass, right? Everything. He was the opposite of invincible. Everything broke him. Barely touch him and he breaks. That's what this experience is. And I think if you can adopt that mindset, then the next step has to be, okay, so where are you on this experience? On that spectrum of experience, where are you? What are you putting out there into the world? Are you putting out bad experiences? You might be. And that might be necessary. Or are you putting out good experiences? That's also necessary. But all of it is necessary. Don't seek to remove evil from the world. Just seek to open people's eyes to it. And then what they do with that is up to them. It's not your business. Right? Not your business to combat evil. Your business is to expose it. Right? Let the world know that evil exists. But then my mind goes to this. If you do remove a little bit of evil and make the world a little bit better, does a little bit of the good have to go with it? Maybe. Right? The way I think, they're inextricably linked. So maybe the ultimate evil has to exist, right? God and the devil. Those two have to be. You cannot get rid of those. They are the polar opposite, right? Polarity, the law of polarity. I believe if you read the Kabbalion, that's one of the 7 Hermetic principles. The law of polarity. I'm almost to work. I think I did pretty good with today's rant. Let me see. How do I close this off? The spectrum of experience. Make a choice. Live a conscious life. Be conscious with your words and your actions. Right? Don't be absent-minded. Think before you speak. Think before you act. It seems like a lot of effort at first. But once you start making the conscious effort to actually be this way, it then becomes second nature pretty quick. That's what I think. Right? It's like riding a bike. So hard at first to keep that balance. But after a while, you don't even think about it. Just jump on your bike and go. And then it's just once you're on your bike going, then it's just, all right, where are you going? Where are you going? You're on it now, right? Just like life. You don't have to think about life anymore. You just get up and go, but where are you going? What are you doing? Right? Is there a purpose? You know, people like to get real dark with it. There's no purpose to life. The purpose to life is the purpose you give it. Some people aren't giving their lives purpose. That's why they fill their minds with external entertainments. And then those become their purpose, right? Can't miss that Netflix episode, right? Love that series. Live for that. What purpose have I given my life? I don't even know. Maybe this is my purpose. Talk to you guys. Right? Maybe all my incessant rambling might spark some sort of inspiration in somebody else. I don't know. I don't have any answers. I have questions. I like having questions. I think it's more important to have a good question rather than having the right answer. I like that better. Because if you have a good question, it'll get you the right answer. So start questioning. That's I think what school ruins in people is it teaches you. Schooling teaches you to have the answer. It doesn't teach you to ask questions. Matter of fact, kind of frowns upon that, right? If you're in class, you start questioning what the teacher's trying to tell you. They don't like that. Maybe that's why I get on people's nerves. All I have is questions. I don't pretend to know anything. I have a lot of speculations. I have a lot of theories. Most of which might not make any sense to anybody. But it makes sense to me. I don't know. This is my mind all day, every day. All right, everybody. Do good, be good. I hate saying that. Like and subscribe. That's what I hate saying. If you happen to see this, tell him you heard this crazy guy who rambles on the way to work and says some wild stuff. Hopefully I gave somebody out there some stuff to think about. I think these are I love a good thought experiment. Nothing better than a good thought experiment. Right? Put what you think you know aside. All right, you already know that. Put that to the side. Let's think about this for a second. I like that. All right, let's go to work.